Hello, welcome to Loremaster's Library, the show where we connect real-life concepts to tabletop in an effort to either see where some of our favorite concepts came from, or try to inspire things for your tabletop games. Mostly the latter this month, as today we continue our look at widespread wars in history. This time looking at the war which needs no introduction, but might need to be romanticized just a little bit less. The War of the Three Kingdoms. The war started with the slow collapse of the Eastern Han Dynasty, the golden age of ancient China compared by some to the Western's Rome. But eventually the power shifted away from the emperor, with it instead being taken by senior court officials, usually relatives of the emperor, and the eunuchs, who were put in power at the thought that, since they could not have children, that would dull their ambitions for power. Well, it did not, and the country entered a period of corrupt courts which silenced the voices of any who stood against their excesses. Add in natural disasters, and the empire's twilight was clear. This eventually led to a man by the name of Zhang Jiao and his two brothers, all leaders of the Taoist order known as the Way of Supreme Peace, to start what is now known as the Yellow Turban Rebellion. The empire put its whole force into crushing the rebellion, but even with its head cut off, the survivors continued as bandits, to continue as a third in the side of the Han throughout the rest of this time period we're covering today, while the Han put their forces and tried to chase them down. Shortly after, the rivalry between the imperial family and the eunuchs reached its crescendo, when one of the family learned of an assassination plot against him. He, in turn, called several generals to come and assassinate the head of the eunuchs. While the general did not return fast enough to save the man's life, they did slaughter the eunuch and 2,000 of their supporters, effectively tipping the power towards the royal family for the remainder of the entire time period. We're not even at the Three Kingdoms yet. But it also led to the general who led the slaughter to be in the position to become the de facto leader when further power struggles left the emperor without any power. This, in turn, led to a large coalition of forces forming against the man, Dong Zhuo, many of who would be the big players in the Three Kingdoms. But it is not they who killed him, but his bodyguard, Lu Bu. This and infighting among the warlords who had united to fight the tyrant led to the full and final collapse of central power. Here is where things start to truly heat up, with one of the generals, Cao Cao, both gaining regency over the young heir to the empire, as well as capturing and executing Lu Bu. He strengthened his holdings and managed to take down many of the other warlords who rose, except for two. At the battle known as the Battle of Red Cliffs, the armies of Liu Bei and Sun Quan formed an alliance and were successful in rebuffing Cao Cao. This left three warlords standing, each with regions under their control. First we have the Shu, the area formed by the holdings of Liu Bei. The state was not proclaimed until the death of Liu Bei, and was done so by his children, of course. While it was ruled by Bei's descendants, it was the chief strategist Zhang Liang who ran the kingdom and helped ensure they continued to turn away incursions from the other two kingdoms. Even in his death, he launched one more strategic attack to turn back the Wei army. Meanwhile, Sun Kong's nation, the Wu, spent the entirety of the war on the defensive, turning back all attacks from the north. This allowed them to focus on the south, where they put down various tribes of people and worked to expand the lands of China in that direction. Of course, doing so also gave Vietnam another reason to eventually rebel against China, but that is another story. As for Cao Cao, he continued to serve as the emperor's regent until his death. It was his son who first declared himself emperor of the state of Wei. Wei would continue to fight against the two kingdoms of the south, but the main improvement to the domains they would see during the years would be in taming the people of the steppe during this time period and successful wars against Korea. After about 40 years of equilibrium, the nations began to fall. First was the Shu. After Zhaoliang's death, the courts became increasingly corrupt, to the point that the eunuchs had gained much power. However, it was not corruption, but the Wei who finished them, managing to bring in an army through mountainous terrain deemed impassable. After the capital fell, it was not long until the rest of the nation followed. Then, ironically, it was the Wei which fell, and in a similar way they took power. The Sima clan, first of which was Sima Li, managed to become regent of a young emperor, and then the family took power. The Cao clan was better equipped to fight back, but in the end the Sima clan took over, ending the Wei and opening the path to the Jin. Finally, the Wu, which had been able to hold off the Wei, found itself with a tyrannical ruler and all its competent generals dying one after another. That wasn't so hard to say. Till none were left when the fleets invaded. A six-pronged attack managed to overload the Wu's defenses and lead to the final surrender in but 3 months. And so the 400 years of instability and 50-ish years of war finally came to an end, with none of the 3 kingdoms remaining. The Jin dynasty would continue on for a few centuries until it too would meet its end. The war would eventually be remembered and reimagined in the Romance of the 3 Kingdoms, which in turn has been adapted as various games and anime. How most people watching this video probably even heard about it. But that brings us to the end of today's episode. With the war being used so much in fiction, it's good to see it broken down to its basics. Next week we have one more war to look at. I hope to see you all next time.